Hey there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am going to go ahead and get started making a card for Halloween. This will be my first card for 2018, so let's just jump right into it. I showed you a few of the things I'm going to be using, and so for starters, we're going to get going with some alcohol inks. You've seen me do this before. I have some Yupo paper, and I covered that with some alcohol blending solution, and I put down some Purple Twilight alcohol ink, and then I'm going to throw down some eggplant alcohol ink. Unfortunately, my Purple Twilight has a funky cap or a funky tip to it. It's like it's twisted, and so it doesn't come out the greatest, but that could get some fun impressions, so we'll just keep working with it. And I've grabbed my Copic air adapter along with that's attached to my air compressor, and I'm blowing that around, or blowing the alcohol inks around with that air compressor. So to make it a little easier to work with this, I'm putting down more of the alcohol blending solution, and I've taken all the caps off of the three colors that I am going to be using. I plan to use this as a background. I'm actually going to be making two cards, and I'm going to take that 5x7 Yupo paper, and eventually I'm going to cut it in half. But I want pretty much every inch of that to be covered. So I'm just going to keep peppering some of those colors in there, being a little bit careful with the pitch black. I don't use that too much, but it's a Halloween card, so it's not going to hurt it to have some black. And then I'll just keep working it. I really enjoy working with these because you get something different every time. I should try the straw technique. People blow with a straw, but I think I could probably get the same effect if I just probably used a little bit more of the alcohol blending solution, or maybe even use the alcohol that's the 90% alcohol. So I left this part in here to show you that my Tim Holtz glass mat is super easy to clean up. Even the alcohol inks, all I did was spritz that with water, and then you can wipe it down. Alcohol ink usually doesn't come off of stuff very easily, but it did come off of that. So the stamps that I'm going to be using today come from a set called Critters in Costume from Tailored Expressions, and I am inking those up with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink onto some Express It cardstock and using my Mini Misty so that I can restamp those when needed. Now I set that off to the side, my alcohol inked background, just for a little bit, and now I'm grabbing some foil, and this is by Wow, and I'm just going to kind of burnish that in just to, for the tacky parts. I've seen people do it, and I have never tried it before, so this was the first time. I probably could have done it even sooner, but I thought I needed to kind of let it sit a little bit longer. I love how that turned out. Oh my goodness. I will definitely be doing that more often. And I got that Wow embossing, or that Wow silver paper from Simon Says Stamp. I think I got it for 99 cents on sale. I think they may still have some in their sale. If they do, I will link to it. But yeah, so I'm just kind of moving that around and trying to get it to stick to the tacky areas. It's so cool. And so now I'm going to get started Copic coloring my images. Will put all of the colors up on the screen, and I have this sped up about 4 times. And these images are so cute. And of course, with a cat and a dog, well, a couple dogs, I'm going to have to color these like my own animals. You're probably getting tired of seeing that, but I'm not. So this is what we're doing. So for my pumpkin, I used the colors Y38, YR68 as my mid-tone, and YR18 as my darker tone. And I'm using the YR18 on the inside. If I could redo it, I probably would have done a yellow color on the inside like it was lit up. But I was thinking about, well, the inside of the pumpkin will be darker, and so it made sense. But yeah, and I do like the way it turned out, but I end up doing it on this pumpkin, what I was originally thinking. So I will just go back and forth with the colors, just adding the shading where I'd like the shading to be. And then for that inside color, I'm using Y15. That looks a little bit better in my opinion, although I really like the other one too. And so now on to coloring a Siamese. I know y'all are surprised. Using my go-tos E81, E84, and E87. One of these days I will surprise you and I will color the cat different. But until then, this is what we got. So yeah, definitely looks like my cat. And then I'll move on to the little pirate cat as well, and I will color the exact same. I'm getting good at coloring these Siamese, if you ask me. And I'm just going to keep going back and forth. I really debated on the colors. because that background is so dark. I wanted to make sure that the colors were brighter, but not overpowering, if that makes sense. And because there's so much detail on the cats themselves, I didn't necessarily think it was, like I needed to add too much color to this outfit. But I am going to do that. It actually ends up being a dark pink, and then I'm trying to do more of a black. But, you don't really want to use your black Copic for that. You use your grays for that. And so I use the cool grays. So I'm using, also for my dog, C1, C3, and C5. My cute little dog has a patch over her eye, and her little ears are black. So that's Lolly. And, it's very fitting because she's a girl, and there's the little witch costume. So I'm just going to go back and forth until I'm happy with her, and then I will start coloring her costume. I didn't want too much black, like I was saying earlier. I didn't want it to be too dark because the background is dark. And so I will color her outfit more of a purple to make her stand out, but more of a light purple, not as dark as the colors that I had chosen for the alcohol inks. So I will move on to the BVs, BV02 and BV04 for her outfit. And then I'll also end up using that BV02 as a shadow for this little dog, this little ghost dog. And then I'll just color that dog with some of the browns. For some added interest to the background, I have grabbed a couple of dies, both from Tailored Expressions. One is the Build-A-Scene Rolling Hills, and the other is the Birch Tree Border. And I've just used some black cardstock to cut those out. I have some poppy seed, which is from Tailored Expressions as well, poppy seed cardstock that I had cut from 5.5 inches to 5.5 by 8.5, and I am scoring those at 4 1/4. And then I'm going to put those rolling hills into my mini MISTI so that I can line up my sentiment, which just says trick or treat. And that actually comes from the Little Bits of Halloween. I liked the sentiments in Critters and Costumes, but I wanted to use one of the sentiments from the Little Bits of Halloween. And I'll have all that linked down below. So I'm covering that with my embossing buddy. And then I'm going to ink up the sentiment with Versamark ink, which is just a sticky clear ink. And then I'm covering that with my white embossing powder. And then I'm going to heat that, or melt that with my heat tool. I always enjoy watching embossing powder melt. There's something very satisfying about it. And once those are all heated, I will move on to the next part. So now we're going to start assembling. So I have cut that Yupo paper in half. And now I am using some tape runner, some Tombow permanent adhesive to just stick that down onto my poppy seed cardstock. And then I'm going to start, taking a look at how I'm going to apply. So I've decided that I want the birch tree to be behind the hill. So I'm going to adhere that to the side. And I didn't push down too hard because I decided I needed that branch that sticks out to be down a little bit further. And then I'll turn that over and trim off the excess. And then I will attach the hill on top of that. And then to adhere my pieces, or my little critters, I've used some foam tape on the back. And then the one that's going to stick on the branch, my little ghost dog, he's just going to be taped down. I want him to be more in the background. And then for the second one, it's the same. I used foam tape on the cat and the dog, and the little pumpkin will just be taped to the branch. I am clearly not a scary Halloween person. I am definitely a cutesy Halloween person. So, yeah, maybe that's why I enjoy making the Halloween cards as much as I do. They're cutesy. It reminds me of the little kids walking around collecting the candy. I think that's my favorite part. So I'll take all the backing paper off and adhere all those images down. And then I will stamp a sentiment for the inside. So I have a couple pieces of Neenah cardstock. Those are trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm using some candy corn ink from Tailored Expressions. And I'm just kind of lining that up. I didn't line this one up correctly for whatever reason in my mind. I thought that if I turned the paper that way, it would keep it straight. But turns out no. But I don't mind. I think that adds to the handmade element. So I stamp that down on the inside. And then I will put the other one in there because clearly I have 2 cards. So I will put the other one in there and think better of how I'm actually supposed to line it up so that it's straight. And then I will use my magnet to hold that down, ink that up with the candy corn ink, and stamp it down. And then I will adhere those with my Tombow permanent adhesive to the insides of each of those cards. And for a final bit of embellishment, I'm going to use the Nuvo Glow Drops in Apple Sour. These were just perfect in my opinion because, well, they glow in the dark for starters. And I will insert a picture of how they glow in the dark here in a bit. But, it's so cool. And then it does kind of go with the stems a little bit. It kind of ties that together. So I tried to get a picture with the lights off, and then you can see just how great these glow in the dark. Isn't that so super cool? These are amazing. I'm going to use these as much as I can. Okay, so that finishes off these two cards, the first of my Halloween cards of 2018. If you liked this video, hit the like button, and thank you for subscribing if you have done so. And as always, guys, I appreciate you stopping by.